Jochen, you're a facade contractor. You're my best partner now to give comments on what we drew and if this is possible to be built.
I try my best.
This is how it should be, and this is kind of feedback which I'd like to get. So this is the general geometry, general layout. This is a section floor plan with, say, very global positioning of the punched window in the facade. This is the aluminium version of the punched window in a ventilated facade. We need to talk about how things are fixed, but we do that later in the deeper details. This is the wood version, so the aluminium version. I'm aware of you being more into metal and aluminium, so this may be your favorite. This is the wood version. In general, works the same, also with the windowsill. And then the plastic PVC version as a setting. Line of defenses. Anything I need to take care from your perspective as someone who's installing it? Line of defenses, I drew these dotted line, looks nicely. I have to take care of the details, but say this is the setup which you would agree on as well.
Yes. So this 3 line of defenses are very good for orientation for construction, because when you have to think about what is the right position for the window, it gives you a better indication where you have to place it, because the positioning of the window could go to inside, could go outside, and you have to think about how the line would work and how the line would be. And in this case, it's idealistic drawn that's the profiles, and the zone of insulation of the window is directly in the line.
Of course, aesthetically I can imagine to have it more here or more here, but then the line of defenses would start shifting. And I hope I transferred it into, say, a proper detailing later. Tolerances. I allowed myself a tolerances of 15 millimeter in the one and 15 millimeter in the other, which means this is the line where I assume that the main structure is, but I allowed to be either 15 millimeter wider or smaller. Is this something which you would be happy with to accept?
It's a point that you have every time to consider. Normally on theoretical plans you won't find this inside and outside line of the tolerances, but you have to consider it during the construction. You have to point out how you can work with it. If it's for one punch window, then it's not a big problem. I think in Germany the tolerances that you have to calculate, or that you have to incorporate in your construction is plus minus 8 millimeters, but it becomes more problematic if you have a punched window system or a punched window array in a ventilated facade in the sample that you have shown, because then you have to think about, then it becomes a kind of grid. And when it's a grid, then you have to think about how you can deal with the tolerances.
I see. So this becomes something and this becomes something, and then the lines are not straight anymore.
Then it becomes more problematic, and you have to think about how you can cover these tolerances so that the ventilated facade and the panels in the ventilated facade are still the same. You need an overlapping in cover the tolerances that comes from the building shell.
So that's a strategic design decision where exactly to put the lines in position to the windows. Yeah, that's a clear point. Okay, let's come to the detail. This is main horizontal section, windowsill, ventilated facade, insulation, load-bearing part, the aluminium window, and then line of defense, the outer rain, the inner air tightness happening here, and then the window itself. Okay?
It looks fine. It looks fine. Sometimes you have to think about how you want to place the fixing and the opportunity to fix a window itself.
Yeah, I fixed the windows at the side. So this is side window, horizontal, and this is where I fixed the window. So I have 3 brackets to position the window. Body language tells me you're not happy.
It's doable, but normally, maybe we are special, but normally we are used to do it with a bracket. It's a button where we have a bracket that can cover the dead load, and then you can think about a pressure resistant PVC that can cover the dead load, or about a steel tube in a way that is covered with a pressure-resistant thermal insulation in a way
Let's take blue.
that covers the steel profile to avoid a thermal bridge.
Because otherwise would have this too close, and this may be a thermal bridge, okay. And then I have this aluminium bar, this steel bar which goes this way to cover the dead load, and then this is fixed to some brackets which are then fixed into the concrete.
Yes. So it needs also, in this case, it's not placed in the right way, because then you can fix it through the profile that goes into the.
So actually this needs to be more here, so that we have a point of fixing.
And then you have a fixing point that can also carry the dead load and partially the wind load also.
Okay, this is for dead load.
Yes.
But for wind loads, if this is wind loads, I will need these brackets, or would you do this at the top?
It depends on the static calculation of the profile itself. When the profile is strength enough to cover the height of the window, then you can use it at the top, where you create a kind of bracket that is fixed at the wall in this way, and then you have kind of a slide in element, so that can cover the wind load in this direction.
There's movement in this direction. The sliding allows that this moves while this stays. I see, so that I don't get forces into that one, and then I have this bracket which is fixed here, which is then fixed again, zack, zack, to the main structure, which then replaces this one.
Yes, you only need it when you have a very high window and with a very small profile.
Yeah, this is meter by meter, so it's not that much. When I think, okay, that's great, good to know. When I think about air tightness, so rain finds its way here, insulation, thermal break, insulation, fine. Air tightness are covered with this.
This is every time a discussion, how do you want to install this foil for air tightness? Logically, it's good to have it inside and to install it directly on the inside frame profile. In this way, it makes it really easy to do it on the edges.
I see.
Every time in
the same here.
Every time in the same way.
But then I need to cover it.
Then you need to cover it. It's a question of what will happen inside, and you have also consider that this kind of foils need an area where it can fixed on the profile.
Okay, so I may need to somehow cover it here, and I may need to be able to cover it here, or have this brought in position. Okay, this is one solution, and then this is the other solution, and I understand your point. You have to make sure that this always finds the coverage at the same, so I'm not going to combine this solution with this solution, because then we may get in the edges, in the corners, a situation where there's an...
Then it becomes in reality really tricky to overlap these foils from the verticals and the horizontals, so that it's really tight at the end.
Yeah, helpful. Thank you. Now we go to the brick cladding. Brick cladding as a setting, same discussion. The tightness here, the brackets, which may be at the bottom or top as an alternative. Any comments on this?
No, from perspective. Combination between window and the ventilated facade, you have to see it separate, window construction and ventilated facade, because the function of the window has to be there also without the ventilated facade. And purpose of the ventilated facade is to cover the insulation, that the insulation not becomes wet.
So this is rain cover, and then this is insulation, which brings us nicely to the next one, which is the plaster version. So there we have say styrofoam hard insulation, which is covered with plaster. And so this is the plaster, this is the aluminium, and then the foil again for tightness, and then this is one piece. Comments to this?
Plaster facade is, to say it this way, every time really complicated, because in comparison to a ventilated facade, it's not allowed that water can come in, and it means
Any water here is a disaster.
is a disaster because it destroys the structure of the insulation and of the plaster itself. So it means you have to be 100% sure that there is an airtightness between window and plaster facade.
So I took here a profile from the shelf from the system supplier, which was which is meant to be the profile where they finish the plaster at.
Yeah.
And then that's what I would do, and that they just covers the whole thing.
It brings you to a problematic situation when we think about the bottom point,
Yeah.
because when you're working with a window seal,
The windowsill, the discussion here. So where is the windowsill really to bring in, and how does
Yes.
it look from the side?
how the plaster facade interconnects to the window seal.
Okay. Well, thank you. I learned I have to take care of some brackets and I have to rethink some of the foils, but that helps a lot. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.